Las Gatos yesterday to do an inspection. That was
Would you say Los Banos?
Las Gatos. I
Where
was
is
out
that at?
like just past San Jose.
Oh man, okay, you go all the way over there. How far do you go out?
I do not. that was uh that was a request, and so I did that because they needed some.
Okay, so
Yeah, but
there's
I
just
don't.
they're just someone special then.
I mean, not really. They just, I mean, if it's like if somebody asks me, from time to time, I'll do something like that. I just don't want to do it on a regular basis. It's too far. Like that drive, that's like 6 hours of driving,
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
I'm good with that.
Well, good to know, man.
Yeah, man. Chia, I'll drive to freaking LA for you, man. It's all good. You ain't even got a trip about that. You need me to go somewhere, I'll go wherever.
I know you will, man. I appreciate you, bro, for that.
No, it's all good. Where's my list here? What you got on the agenda for today?
Market update. Talk about maybe some small debunks. Um, Going over homes on the market, why some homes are staying on the market longer than others. You
Yeah,
know?
man, the market over in Tennessee ain't the business right now. My sister's house is still sitting.
Oh yeah, over there too, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah, right now it's it's slowing down, because holidays is coming up. It's getting cold now. Election is in 2 weeks.
don't mind me.
So there's a lot going on, man.
Yeah,
There's a lot going on. So we just gotta right now a lot of people are waiting, for the rates, I guess you could say.
mm-hmm.
And some people are just waiting for after elections. Really, some people that I'm talking to right now, that's what they're waiting for is elections. So what can you do?
Keep on keeping on.
Yeah, that's all you can do. But let me just do this real quick, and then we should be on our way. All right, but first thing first, man. Let me just go over market update, and then we could talk about today's topic. Let's do that. Okay. Look at the chart. Look at the chart. All right, so from last week, inventory has gone down just a tiny tad, 0.5%. New listing is up almost 2%. Sold homes are down 20%. Yeah, I feel it. Pending homes are down 5%. Now from last month, we got more inventory by 1.7%. New listing is up also by zero point 0.7. Sold homes is up almost 2%. Pending home is up almost 1.5%. Same time last year, inventory is up 43% from last year, 2023. New listing is also up almost 30%. Sold home is up 9%. Pending homes are up 38%. Year to date, inventory is up 43%. New listing is up 21%. Sold homes are up 4%. And pending homes are up 7.8%. So everything is still up.
I'm noticing it. I don't know about you. Everything seems to be flowing pretty regular in our area.
Yeah, it's around this time everything slows down. Home just stays on the market a little bit longer. Now let's just talk about that first since we're here. See, so everything's kind of gone up past the 40-day mark, because a week ago it was like under 29 days, and this week on average is 41 days on average for a home to go pending, you know. So everything's kind of going up, just taking a little bit longer than normal to for a home to get sold because it's not really a priority right now. Those buyers that were kind of rushing it, they're kind of trying to get in the door before October. And now that we're in October and Halloween's coming up, all these holidays are coming up, it's kind of being put on the back burner right now. So that's why you see these days on the market increasing, you know. This month on average is 36 days. Last month is 28 days. Last year, same time, it was 23 days, And but year to date this year compared to last year, it's faster, overall. It's 29 days on average. Last year was 31. It's not by a huge change, but on average this year homes are going faster than last year. So that just tells you people are buying, but it just feels like it's so slow this time because it's been so busy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like it's been so busy and all of a sudden it just slows down. You're going 70 miles per hour and all of a sudden you're slowing down to 30 miles per hour. So it feels slow. But everything's still moving along. It's just um pricing, marketing, all of that. And if you look at the average price per square foot, it's gone down from last week by almost 2%. But it's higher by last month by 2%. It's higher than last year by 1%. And year to date, on average price per square foot's been up 3%. So everything is still moving up. It's still like a healthy economy right here, especially here in Sacramento County. Again, these data is just going over Sac County, nothing else. So if you're not in this county, then you're not going to show up in these data, okay? But sold price, active price is up by a tiny tad. 693K versus 692K on average. Sold price is up almost 7% from last week. Now here, from last month, it is down. Active price is down 35% and sold price is down 1%. But last year, sold price this year is up 1%. Active price is down 2%. And year to date, sold price on average this year was up 4% on average. Last year it was 584K. This year on average is 608K. So there you go. Everything is still more than last year because everybody's kind of basing their, information from like last year because that's all they have, right? So if you're basing it off of that, everything seems to still be trending up. Now inventory is going up slightly. Well, from last month, it's down just a tiny tab, like 4%. But we're still under a seller's market. Again, anything under 3 months worth of inventory is considered a seller's market. Same time last year. Last year we had way less inventory, like under 2 months, 1.5 to be exact. Year to date, this year we have 2 months on average of worth of inventory. Last year was 1.5. Okay, so everything is trending up. Inventory is also trending up slightly. It's not drastic enough to change the market condition to where it's gonna favor buyers. If you go into like a little niche pocket area maybe, but all in all, a Sac County on average, everything's trending up. So that is the market update. Have you noticed business going up too on your side, Charles? More inspections, anything like that?
It's it's mostly been pretty steady. Like I said, it hasn't really gone up or gone down in the recent months. Obviously in the middle of summer, it was a lot busier, things like that. But yeah, just last week was kind of slow. It was random, but this week's been pretty busy. Um, week
But
prior,
on average, though, you've been pretty steady.
yeah, it's been pretty steady for a while.
Yeah. Well, let's move on next to the mortgages, shall we? I know we don't have Lisa here today. She is on a what? She's on a cruise. When did she say she
Hmm.
was coming back?
I think she said she'll be back next week.
Next week. Next week, Lisa will be back. But so this week, you got the guys, the good fellas, the guy with the cap. Mortgage rates. Okay, today, conventionals at 6.9, 15-year fix is at 6.3, jumbo loans at 7%, adjustable rates at 6.7, FHAs at 6.3, VAs at 6.4. So rates are slightly up. Um, I think a few days ago it was like in the high fives. So right now it's at back to 6.3, around there. Again, this is just my numbers I'm seeing as of right now. If you guys are buying a home or refinancing, your rates may look different from this right here, depending on the loan amount, your credit, the area, and the time. Okay. So again, just a little disclaimer. If you guys go to your lenders and it looks nothing like this and it got worse, I'm telling you right now, this isn't live or anything, okay? Or maybe it might be better, okay? Because that's the thing with rates, it's gonna go up and down every hour, every second. So just remember that. But today, that's the market update. What do you got on the agenda today, Charles, that you want to talk about?
Well, um, most of what I've been thinking about recently is just maintenance. Especially we're getting into these winter months here coming up. So really the main thing is maintenance, as I generally talk about. One thing I wanted to mention too, I wanted to talk about homes with crawl spaces, right? And this comes into maintenance as well. So um, foundations in general. So a home with a slab foundation is going to just be made up of the entire area that you're walking on. That's all going to be concrete, right? So they pour a foundation typically somewhere between, anywhere between 6 and 10 inches, just depending on the grade of your property and all that, reinforced and all that. So the thing about that is when you're walking on that, everything for the most part is buried underneath that. So your drainage pipes, everything that has to flow away, things like that, any kind of drain you have, that's going to be all underneath the house and it's going to be within the slab or beneath the slab, right? And
Yep.
so if anything does happen, and then sometimes what they used to do is they used to bury the water supply lines in the slab too. They don't do that so much anymore. Um, for obvious reasons, but drainage, you don't really have a choice. You have to have your drains underneath the house because drainage flow is not pressurized, so everything has to go in a downward direction, and so that the drainage flows properly. So slab foundations, you don't typically have to worry about a lot of issues. You have a flat surface. There's not really usually a whole lot of voids and openings where termites and things like that can get in. Sometimes depending on your situation, you may have a high water table or just a heavy amount of moisture in your area. So you may have some seepage issues as far as water goes. But like most times when you're putting in flooring, you can have some kind of vapor barrier below the flooring. But a crawl space home, as you can see in these pictures here, Raised foundation, and they call it a crawl space because you're usually crawling under the house in order to gain access to under the house, but it's a raised foundation. So the difference with that is most of the time, unless there's some shifting and movement to the concrete or soil beneath, your drainage pipes on a house a slab foundation aren't really going to be disturbed. It does happen, it can happen, but it's a lot more rare. A lot of the time, the reason why there's damage to raised foundation homes with piping and ductwork and all these other things that are around there is because people are crawling underneath your home, and sometimes brackets get broken, some support brackets get broken, things like that. Animals get under there, they start doing things. There's a lot more access for things to be manipulated, right?
Yeah.
So the other thing about that too is, in a lot of cases, since they're running supply lines underneath the house, since they're running the ductwork underneath the house, because there's this space that's available now, why not use it? But it's all a lot more susceptible to damage due to just people, movement, animals, all that. And so that's why it's very important to make sure that any openings into your crawl space are sealed with proper vents. So your crawl space does need proper ventilation because it's just soil exposed. And then directly above that, you have your wood members that are supporting your house. So you need to have a good ventilation so that you don't have a lot of heavy moisture underneath your home. If you have a lot of heavy moisture underneath the home, that starts to wick into the wood members, starts to cause damage. You got mold, rot, all kinds of things. You don't want that. So having water under your home is not normal. It can happen, but it's not good. It's not a regular occurrence that you want to happen. So
What
if you do
causes
have an
water
issue,
to get? Do you know what causes water to get into the crawl spaces? Because I see most crawl spaces has these brick or concrete walls that's blocking the outside soil from getting in. So what could cause water to get into the crawl space areas?
well, so there's going to be water in the soil all the time, regardless, right? So some areas might happen to have a high water table, so even below, because the foundation goes down into the ground, several inches past where what you can see that's actually exposed, right?
Yeah.
So the water that's in the soil is going to be well beneath that. It's just like if you have a well and you dig way, way, way
Got
down
it.
to where you
It's
can
just
gain water
seeping.
from that. Yeah, so it actually seeps up through the soil. And then same thing, concrete's not waterproof. Water can seep through concrete. So you also have a little bit that'll seep through there. So if you have let's say you just water the heck out of your lawn and you're constantly running water all the time, all the time, all the time, you're going to have some of that seep underneath the foundation, and it's all going to stay within the soil. And then same thing if you're in an area and it's super rainy all the time, or like if you're in Washington or something like that and it's constantly raining, you're going to have areas that are going to be more moist. Typically speaking, most crawl spaces are pretty dry because for the most part, um, that foundation wall does a pretty good job of keeping out a lot of that, as long as you don't have a ridiculous amount of moisture that you're introducing either by you or by nature into the soils around your property. So, like for example, having downspouts that just dump water directly next to the foundation is a bad idea. You want to make sure you route that off into an area, especially if you have a slope like this one that's in the first picture up here. You want to make sure that you route that away from the foundation. So that's typically where when you're gonna get water in the foundation. And then that's another option. You can see in that other picture you have there is a vapor barrier. It's a plastic barrier that prevents some of that moisture from wicking up into the wood members into the bottom of the home. So, but back to the damage. So obviously you need to make sure that your vents stay intact. You don't want to just have all of your vents and no openings on the sides, because you need to have that air movement. It's not a forced air movement, it's just air through nature, just it's air being able to move. So if you have enough ventilation around your house, it's not usually a problem. And then that's another option there, that black cap, the crawl space drainage. So that's another option too, to have a sump pump in your crawl space. If you have a heavy amount of water in there, you can install a sump pump. And what that'll do is anytime that water level gets to a certain point there in your crawl space, that pump will automatically, in the soil even, because it's dug down to the lowest spot in your crawl
Mm,
space, And then anytime that water level raises underneath your soil, and it basically gets to the point where it's in that pump, in that range of that pump, it'll automatically turn on and drain the water that's in that area.
Oh,
So
that's pretty
that's a
cool.
yeah, that's another good way to mitigate that. And especially if you do have problems with water seepage during those winter months, the sump pump will definitely take care of that. It's
Are those
definitely
pretty
because the other
expensive to
problem.
install those pumps?
I mean, they're not too bad. It just kind of depends on access. Everything's about access, right? If you have barely any access underneath your crawl space, and you got to have somebody, do a bunch of crazy stuff just to get in. I mean, the cost is going to go up, but it's not too bad. Some pumps themselves, just the sump and the pump, probably range you between maybe $1,000, $2,000 if you get a decent sump and a good pump, a good quality pump. And then the installation, from plumbers are going to, they usually charge about $100 an hour. So it's gonna be pretty pricey, but what it can save you obviously is important.
What
And
about
then
these
same thing with vapor
fans?
fans. That's another option too. Like if you don't have a lot of ventilation options, for example, your house is on the side of a cliff, and you have like only maybe two sides that are available for ventilation instead of all four. Fans are a good idea because it'll basically force the air to be drawn in and moved around. So you've got that mold right underneath that one. So it's definitely important to have that ventilation. One of the other things that happens too is, again, if you don't keep your screens properly sealed off and all your openings properly sealed off, any openings you want to make sure. Most of these newer homes, they actually have insulation underneath
Yeah,
your wood
like
members,
like
and
this.
the animals love that because it's a nice warm place for them to nest and bed. And so, a lot of times you get underneath these homes, and this is the problem when you have trades come in. Um, it's almost like you get quality from different people. When you have trades come in and do work, you got to make sure that somehow. I feel like you always got to check up on people, right? Because what happens is we go in these crawl spaces and we see what's the result of a trade, right? So, and I hate talking about tradesmen because everybody's trying to do a good job. It's just that sometimes people don't understand the importance of maintaining these infrastructures that you have, right? So if you have a vapor barrier and then you have a trade come in and cut out the bottom to put in, whatever they're going to do, you got to keep that stuff intact, right? And some people just don't understand that. Same thing with, cable installers. When they bust a hole in your vent to run the cable through, they don't understand maybe that vent has to stay intact because it's going to allow pests in. Same thing with when they install it on the roof. So I guess maybe that's what it's part of it, the understanding aspect of it. But it's just proper education is good. But as a homeowner, it's important for you to then know, hey, I got to check and make sure that this is in good shape. Those vents need to stay intact. If they put a hole in the wall to run their cable through, I need to make sure it's sealed properly so water is not going to come in. So all that kind of stuff comes into play, but making sure that stuff stays sealed up, and don't put it off, because if you see it, there's a chance that there already could be something that's already gotten down there. So if you see openings in your
Yeah.
vent for whatever reason, something loosened up, somebody came and did some kind of installation or whatever, you know, make sure that you get it repaired and then have it inspected first. Have a pest company come out and take a look to make sure there isn't any problems already. Because now, if you seal that vent up and there's a pest in there, they're not getting out, and then they're going to try to dig through to get through from somewhere else. So it's
So
definitely
I have a
important
question.
to keep. Yeah.
When water gets in the crawl space, like can that cause settling on the houses to where you start noticing cracks and things like
Yes,
that?
and I was going to mention that too. So that's another reason why you don't want a lot of water in your crawl space, because typically what a home is supported with is going to be posts and piers, or they may have stem walls. Stem walls, which are just basically additional foundation walls. It makes it a giant pain in the butt to get around the crawl space, but typically they're a little bit more stable than posts and piers. But like, for example, those pictures there, the posts and the piers down there, it's basically just a concrete pier sitting on soil. Um,
Mm.
nowadays you want to dig down, also with a concrete footing to support those piers as well, because there's been so many issues in the past that there's new standards nowadays about how this stuff's installed. Before, they literally would just sit the pier on the ground and put the post on top of it, but that was obviously problematic because the soils would settle and then there'd be issues. So but if you have a heavy amount of water constantly sitting, and then you have all this weight of your house sitting in those areas, yeah, it's going to definitely cause some settling. So again, this is just another reason why you want to make sure that everything's really staying dry underneath your house. That's just one other reason why you don't want water under there as well.
So then, let's say water's getting in from the outside of your house, right? Like on your sidewalk, because there's probably like a little crack um in between the sidewalk and your house, and it rains and it's just getting in that gap. Now it's seeping through the soil to your crawl space and it's causing slight settling on your foundation. And that's why you're noticing that there's small little cracks in the homes now, etc. Sealing up those gaps, would that be just a band-aid, or should they entire redo like the entire concrete to seal it all the way up to the wall again, or build drains?
So, for example, if you have cracks in your foundation because of movement, those cracks will definitely allow water to seep in. So you get some people that'll definitely seal those up to prevent that. But anytime that you have a heavy amount of water, in your area, you have to do something to mitigate that. So whether or not you're doing drainage, if you put French drains around your house, or if you're putting a sump pump, you have to have something that's going to remove that water. You don't want it to just stay there. So some kind of mitigation system is what's needed in those cases, and most of the time that consists, especially if you're on a sloped property and everything kind of slopes towards your house or for your foundation. You definitely want to have drainage in those situations, and also a sump pump as well to help with that.
Got it. Man, and these, what are these right here?
So that's just a different type of support system. Usually you won't see it in a lot of residential properties, at least not in this area. But that's just a steel post with an adjustable support for the top. Especially when you have mobile homes, or areas that do have some kind of movement. You want to have something that's adjustable, because you're going to be constantly going in and making adjustments. With mobile home
I've seen
supports,
this before in a home or in a residential home.
yeah, it's not as common. Most of the time, you have posts and piers or stem walls. There are some homes that I've seen that have metal supports, and they're usually a lot smaller than that, because that's what they used to use in the past. It's just like maybe a couple of inches at most, an inch and a half, and then there's a steel rod with a like a thread rod going through the top with a support that's attached to the wood beam underneath. But it's just not as common.
So I'm guessing when they use this, it's just to adjust the foundation of the home, or is
That
it
one right there looks like it's meant to be permanent.
yeah. So how would they adjust foundation if the structure was starting to like show movement and they need to adjust it back to prevent bigger issues down the road? How would somebody go in there and do that? Do you know?
Yeah, so typically what'll happen is, and it really just depends, especially if you have a home that's like 80 years old, something that's like super old, and there's been a lot of movement over time, and then you've had people come in and do renovations and things like that. Obviously, if you go through doing too much adjustment, then you're going to start creating new cracks, because now you're going back in the opposite direction. But typically, what they'll do is they'll just literally like that. They'll come under the house with a jack system, and then they'll jack up areas that have settled, and then they'll re-support those areas. So there's a couple of things they can do. They can replace the post, they can shim the post, or they can actually, just replace the post and pier altogether. So, for example, if you have a bunch of posts and piers that were installed the old way with literally no support underneath, no footing underneath the pier, then a lot of times they'll come in and they'll put in a new pier, and they'll put new piers and support everything, and then they'll raise it up that way. So but yeah, that's basically the way that it's done. It's just basically to lift the house and support it, and then but it's all done with tools to take measurement on how level everything is and all that.
Got it.
But I mean, there's
I don't
definitely,
really see this
you
unless
know,
it's like one of those homes that's up in the mountains that's got huge crawl space.
yeah, and even that, the homes that have those big crawl spaces like that, they're still going to be, posts and piers. A lot of times the posts are just, 8 feet long. And then the difference is instead of just having the post and the pier just sitting there like that, they'll have, cross support. So, to prevent shifting and movement,
Yeah, yeah.
so really that's the only difference. I mean, they'll still use, 4x4. Sometimes they'll change the support as needed, and they'll use, like 4x6s or 6x6s, but that's, when you have longer spans and whatnot. But typically they'll still use a lot of the same support members, just larger, and they'll add some cross support.
Okay.
That's another way
Now
to see
is
that too, is when you see, that's called efflorescence. And what you see is that's an obvious evidence of water seepage when it's coming through
mhm.
a brick wall or a concrete poured wall, because it doesn't just like, when you have water, it doesn't just like rush through or seep through, quickly. It'll show you in that way, just like that. It'll show up as like a crusty, because what'll happen is the water will, the minerals in the water will then,
Dry up.
get attached to that. Yeah, they dry, and then they attach to the wall like that. So it's just evidence that water's been seeping through the wall at some point. And that's usually, and then usually you'll see it sometimes near the ground, and then there'll be other evidence in other areas too. But when you see that, like let's say you have a basement wall, that's definitely not something you want to see, because that's indicating that your wall is not watertight anymore. When you have a basement wall that has soil, like maybe 3 sides of it, the whole back wall and part of the sides of the side walls, and then maybe one wall is open, like your house is on a cliff, and then they built a wall into that. They built a room into the side of that cliff, so they
Yeah.
dug it out, put a wall waterproof behind it, and then if you ever get water seeping through a situation like that, that's definitely problematic. That can be a big issue.
So for something like this, what would they need to do? Going on the outside of this and create a drain so that way the water flows away from the house, or would they need to bleach this up and get rid of all this seepage and put some sort of barrier here to prevent this from happening again?
Well, putting something on the inside of the wall doesn't always help the situation. In fact, in more cases, it just causes more damage, because then it allows the water to stay there. So in a situation like that, you definitely want to have drainage added to the opposite side. And then if there's an area where it's underneath the soil, where the wall itself is below grade, then you want to have some kind of waterproofing installed to prevent water from seeping through. But in a lot of cases, as long as the wood members aren't beneath, but below grade, there's a lot of times that your wall is going to be below grade. It's just if you have a large amount of water entry, whether or not it's just the evidence of efflorescence like this, or if there's actually water that's seeping through, you want to. It's all about drainage
Yeah.
and mitigation of that water. You got to get it away from the home, away from the foundation, if it's a problem.
Do you personally, after doing thousands of inspections, would you prefer a slab or a crawl space?
Honestly, I would prefer a crawl space. And the reason why I say that is because and now I would prefer a crawl space that has really good access. Like if it's a crawl space that has like, 1.5 feet of space, I'd hate that. But I would like a crawl space with like one of those ones from like downtown that has like
Oh
4 or 5 feet of space. And not because I want to build anything or store anything down there. I want to make it so that way I can gain access to whatever I need. And then the nice thing about those homes that in downtown Sacramento as well is they usually have massive attics as well. So I like is I like to be able to, make adjustments and make modifications and upgrades and things like that. When you have a
yeah.
crawl space or a raised foundation like that, or if you have a massive attic and you want to make changes, let's say you want to put in a fan, let's say you want to run some new cables, or install a heater on the other side of the house, and now you need a gas line or whatever it is right over there. It is so much easier to do that with a raised foundation than it is with a slab foundation. If you want to just do a bathroom renovation, same thing. So much easier to do than with a slab foundation. You can completely reconfigure your bathroom and not have to dig up anything. Everything can just be reconfigured right underneath the floor, underneath
That's true.
the
I like those
thing.
homes too.
Yeah, so that's why I would prefer a raised foundation. I do like slab; it's nice, but I think I would still prefer a raised foundation, honestly.
And yeah, and that's what I tell a lot of folks too, because with the crawl space, you have to do all these maintenance on it, but it's easier to do maintenance on this and do foundation structural adjustments than a slab, right? Because a slab, what most people would have to like break concrete, and that's already a couple $1,000s worth of labor just
Yeah.
to get access to any plumbing, electrical,
Hmm.
or sewage or anything like that, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
if there's structural damage on your slab, forget about repairing it. Like you end up might even having to tear down the whole house just to do the whole adjustment now.
Yeah,
I've
having settling on a home that's built on a slab is much more difficult to take care of. And there's some areas. I think there's a couple of areas out in West Sacramento, and then a few in Natomas, North Natomas, that the soils that they're built on are definitely more susceptible to settling. And you see a lot of it out there. I mean, a lot of times when I go to those houses out in Natomas, especially,
yeah.
The walkways and the driveways are much thinner than the foundation of the house. So a lot of times the house itself isn't as bad as far as when the settling goes, because it's so thick. But where the walkways and the driveways and everything else, they're just like constantly just all over the place. So even if there aren't trees around,
Yeah,
20
no,
years in,
there's a lot of homes in the Thomas that are like that, and
yeah,
and those homes are not even that old. They're like 20 years old,
yeah,
15
exactly,
years old.
exactly. That's not
Do
that's not that old.
what do you think is causing a lot of those newer homes to have foundation issues over there in the Thomas? Why?
Out there, I think it just has to do with the soil. I think
Yeah.
that's what it is. It's what they're built on. And I think that initially the idea was, like I said, I think the foundations have been okay. It's mostly been the other hard surfaces around. There has been some settling and some heavy cracking in some of those areas, but I think it was just the idea that, oh well, this is good enough, and we can build on this, and we don't need to have this thick of a foundation. And I think that now they're realizing that they have to do some other changes to make it strong enough to support everything and not cause any settling. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
my. I mean, I don't. That's the thing about old houses, is you run into that kind of stuff. But that's basically my dream space right there. That's about 4 or 5 feet.
Yep. You could walk right underneath it. All
Uh
of
huh.
this is downtown right here.
Like I said, I would never store anything underneath mine. Probably not anyway. Yeah, I can't say that. I probably would, but
Man, you lying, man. I would turn this into a man cave in a heartbeat.
see, but that's the thing. Like I wouldn't want to turn it into a man cave, because then whatever I had in that area would be all blocked off and everything. You know what I mean? Like I would probably definitely store things, within reason, because you don't want to put too much crazy stuff down there. I'd have lighting down there. Man,
Yeah,
I'd have
that's
all the
what I would
walls
do too.
cleaned up. Man, I put concrete down there. It'd be
Yeah.
clean. It'd be nice.
Stairs this way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is nice, man. Downtown homes, like whenever me and my wife we go and stage these homes and there's like basements like this, it's so cool. And then it's funny because I'll bring my kids, right? And they'll be like, "What is this? How come our home doesn't have this?" And it's like, because these homes are old. Back in the day, basements were really a safety concern. That's why they had it. It wasn't because it
Yeah.
was a feature and all that. But nowadays they don't have it. But if they do, it's a luxury.
all the flooding and everything else from back in the day, there was no
Yep.
levees and all that stuff. So, they had to
Yeah.
keep these things up high. So, like, for example, out in I don't know if it's New Orleans or there's another area. I was watching the show several years back. But they literally put the houses on these massive pilings so that they're raised
Yeah.
up, right? And so that they're basically flood ready up to at
Yep.
least 10 feet, right? So they'll raise these up and they'll make them like these houses downtown. They'll raise them up on these giant pilings and then put the house on top of that. And then they'll make the bottom a garage or something like a storage area
Yep.
that has breakaway walls. So that way, if the water is rushing in from a storm surge, it'll break the walls away, and then it's whatever. It's like it's a garage or a storage area. So if something happens, it's like it's not as bad as losing your whole house, right?
Yep.
So it'll break the walls away so that the water will just rush through those pilings and then not actually destroy the house, and the house won't end up falling down. So I mean, it's definitely been interesting to see some of that, and those are definitely in the areas that have hurricanes where it's big. But
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that was one of the main reasons why they did that in downtown Sac before, because it was low and they had to worry about that back then. Where nowadays, you see stuff built on straight on the ground all the time. But yeah, I really feel like that's one of those situations. The only problem with houses that old is then you run into foundational problems because the foundations were literally built with like bricks or stone, and you just got to find one that's in really good condition and then not think, okay, I'm just sink hundreds of thousands of dollars into this thing to fix it up.
Yeah, like I don't know if you drive by downtown a lot, but I drive by downtown a lot, and sometimes you just see so much construction on homes, and it's not even small construction. It's like the foundation crawl space area construction to where like the whole house is the beneath it is bare bone. You could just walk right. You could see straight through it because they
Oh yeah.
tear it right down because they're replacing the foundation because those homes are so old, and like they've been flooded before in its lifetime, right? Because it's built in the 1900s, and it's been flooded before, so those posts are still like has evidence of the flood from when it happened,
Stains.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
stains and stuff like that. Like there's been times when I go and see homes with clients and the home is literally like leaning. They're like, I could roll a ball down from the entrance door and you won't even beat the ball going down racing it because it's rolling so fast.
Yeah.
So,
It's kind of crazy, what some people leave, right? So like you go into a home and you get, like you said, you start to walk up the steps and you feel that lean, and then you get through the front door and you're like, and then you get in the crawl space and you're like, man, there's like some serious settling here. Like, what they doing? Like, how come they're not like fixing that? And they're just fine. They're just living in here
uh-huh.
like it's cool, like it's not a problem. Like,
Yeah, like it's not noticeable at all. Like what happened to first impressions is everything?
Yeah. No, I did an inspection probably about 3 or 4 months ago on one of those downtown houses, and literally the inside was amazingly renovated. Like they did so much to this thing. It was probably the nicest house that I've seen downtown before. But same thing underneath, they had two-door openings. You get underneath that thing, there was just all new piping, all new drainage. Um, all new supply lines, and everything was so nicely attached and all that. And then same thing, that ladder does not look safe at all. That's the way they decided to show that. Come on now.
They're
But yeah,
letting
all
you
the
know
electrical and
that
everything. Yeah, man, that thing. Put it right at least. Make sure it looks right. Yeah, that's funny. Oh, they got another lower level inch. Oh yes, yeah. They got a door down there. There's
yeah,
some
they
steps
made a
down to
door
that little
going
basement
down there.
area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, these homes right here got like a lot of history behind it, dude. Like you're just looking through the photos and because like some areas in downtown, you can't really renovate the outside to make it look modern because it's
Yes.
protected.
Hmm.
Um, man,
Windows,
like
even like
oh my
windows. If you
God,
even,
Windows a big thing. Like we
yeah, you can't change them. Those old school wood windows, you cannot change them, and that's crazy. And
Yeah,
if you
we
do, they have to be like
tear it down. It has to be
upgraded
the same
and
size,
repaired.
everything. Yeah, it has to be
Yeah,
the
same
same
style.
design.
And then you can't just like because you think, okay, I'll just throw in this new vinyl replacement, but that's the
Nope.
thing is you cannot change those. So you basically have to rebuild it, and it's so much more expensive than just throwing in a new vinyl replacement window.
Yeah, it's we me and my wife we staged home in downtown not too long ago, and oh my Lord, um the investor that bought that home told us it was nothing but nightmares because the city took forever to get back to them on permits,
Hmm.
and it was their first time investing in downtown, and they didn't do much research. They're not from around here. And then when they replaced the windows to put like the newer dual pane vinyl planks and all that, it wasn't the right design. And the city and city inspectors, they came out and pulled all the windows and flagged it. And they had to take down $30,000 worth of windows and redo
Wow.
them. And you can't return those windows because it's
No.
custom measured, to the size. And so like they had to they wanted to open up the windows more, so they took out the old ones and opened it up bigger. And the city guys came out and said, "Who gave you guys authorization to make it bigger? Like that's not allowed in this area." And then they had to frame it back up again to make it the same size they took it out at. It was just nightmare. So if you are investing in downtown, make sure you check up on all your CCNRs and check up on all the regulations because they might not allow you to do certain things that you were hoping you thought you were going to be able to do. It's
Yeah, that's
crazy, man.
crazy.
Because they're trying to preserve the historical events and the theme. It's all protected. So that's really what it is. And I was talking to one of the tenants that live in that area because we parked our car on the streets, and they're like, "Hey, you guys should move your truck in 2 hours." And it's like, why? Oh, because the parking meter guy comes here every couple hours and he'll ticket it. Even though we live here, we can't even park our cars next to the house on the curb. I'm like, oh man, I can never live in downtown like that, man. I can't even have parking.
Gotta have yourself your own stuff, your own parking and everything.
Yeah, like he was telling me the landlord was charging him like $200-300 a month extra if he wanted the driveway.
Yeah, check this one out. Let me see. Mhm. Uh, there it
This is a
is.
smaller basement, not too big. You got one?
Yeah, so this is that house that I was talking about. This is the completely renovated. This is the
Oh,
inside, and
cross. Wow, that's nice.
yeah, they did end up using vinyl windows, but yeah, this thing real nice.
That's
But this
probably
was
not
the
in a historical street.
no, I don't believe so. It
That's why
was,
they got
but
away
it
with
was,
that. Yeah.
but then the crawl space. It's like this is the kind of thing I'm talking about. Like
Oh yeah.
just so much space. I mean, look at this thing, man.
Yeah.
You can run all your lines nice, but see, this is what I'm talking about with the post and piers. This is old school, but you can see that they had some old concrete around where they tried to reinforce it, but this is just this is what I would love because there's so much space to do whatever you want. But I'd probably have the soil encapsulated, or I'd install concrete under here.
Yeah, just to protect it better from moisture.
Yeah, just for ease of access too. Um,
Yep.
but yeah, no, this is real nice. And then the attic, like I said, was crazy too. Just
Huge.
the amount of
Yeah.
space that they had in
Just
there.
walking that.
Look at all that insulation that they installed. But see, I have like platforms in there around
Right.
the installation, so literally you could walk the whole entire attic. You didn't have to worry about where the
Stepping
the
on
ceiling
any
joists were.
drywall.
Yeah, you know.
Hmm.
There's all
I
this room
agree.
for all the duct work with like no problems. Like it was super simple, and they had a real nice pull down attic door and everything in it. I mean, this was one of the nicest houses that I saw in the downtown area. That's the pull down attic that they had. I mean, it was
Mm.
real clean, real
That was the
clean.
same attic from that ladder right there?
Yeah, that's the same
Oh
one.
wow, okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to see. I don't think I see the opening.
Yeah, nowadays your attics in newer homes are nothing like that.
Yeah, that's the opening down there. There's like the ladder right there, and
Okay.
that's where the HVAC is. Yeah. So now but yeah, this was definitely really, really nice. Like I really enjoyed this one for sure. I mean, like full renovation, like just super nice.
Yeah, they
But
doing all that.
yeah.
Did you
But
do
yeah,
this
like I
for the
said,
seller or
the
did you do this for the buyer, the
no,
inspection?
I did this for the buyers. So there was a lot of things that still, like they did a lot. Like I mean, they did a lot of work, but then there was still some things that like some voids and things like that. I mean, for the most part,
Hmm.
these companies come and they do a pretty decent job, but there's still some things sometimes that need to be addressed. But no, it was nice. It's pretty nice.
Got it.
I check this kitchen out. Super clean. And I mean, it wasn't a huge like
It's so nice.
footprint. Like it wasn't a huge square footage because it
Uh-huh.
only had two bedrooms, but they kind of used the space. They basically redid everything and reconfigured it all. And again, that's what I'm saying. You just take a space and then you just decide, okay, well, you know what, I want to redesign it this way. I want to put the refrigerator over here, and the oven over here, and this and this and this, and then they just kind of decide how they want to do it, and that's it. Everything can just be however you want to. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's a nice kitchen right there. So cross spaces, people, it's even though there's a lot of maintenance, even though there's a lot of this and that, it's not like everyday thing though. Okay, like yeah, we're talking about it. It seems like that. It seems overwhelming, but that's why you hire inspectors to come and look at them for you. And then that way you be able to plan ahead. Owning a home in general, there's gonna be maintenance involved, and this is just gonna be part of it. But me personally, I would choose cross spaces over slabs just because it's so much easier to work on. So like me personally right now, I have a cross space home. There are pros and cons. You put a cross space when you're walking, for sure it's hollow. You can hear it throughout the whole house and all that, depending. Um a slab is a little bit more quieter, but cross space, I just have more like flexibility with it. Like whenever I have electrical issues or plumbing issues, I just call somebody out and they just go in my crawl space and look down there, and it takes them like 10-15 minutes to find out what's going on. So it makes it a little bit more user friendly. And then with slab, man, I don't even want to think about anybody coming out to check my plumbing if there's anything clogged, because automatically they're gonna quote me like $7,000 just to break the concrete and put it back together. So yeah, that's just some things, pros and cons regarding cross space. But again, everybody has their own personal preference, and it's okay to pick one or the other because again, there's pros and cons to both.
yes.
But I think that's it, man. Market update, cross spaces, maintenance, all of that. I think that's all we're gonna be talking about today. It's gonna be a quick one today. Well, we got like 5 minutes left. But you got anything else you want to share before we close it up, Charles?
Really, just along with that same maintenance, and like I said, I'll stress this every time. You know, um, just make sure you're doing your maintenance. It's always going to save you on the long end. One other thing I definitely will mention is, and I'm running one right now because I left my window open like a dummy last night. Um, so I have a space heater right next to me because it's really cold in this room. The rest of the house is nice. So when you're going to run space heaters, you're going to, a lot of people do that, especially because gas, prices go up in the wintertime, because of the obvious reason a lot more people are using it. And so a lot of people, especially if they're just in a room and they want to just warm that one room up, they'll use space heaters just like this one. So one thing, again, make sure that if you're using space heaters, do not plug them into extension cords. Do not plug them into power strips. None of that. They need to be plugged directly into the wall outlet. And let me also, this is again, if you have a 20, 30, 40-year-old home or whatever the case may be, if you plug something into that wall outlet and it's kind of wobbly and it doesn't really go in there very well, do not plug something. You need to replace that. Now let me explain why. Okay. When you're running a space heater, I don't know if you ever noticed, but the cord gets kind of hot. It's using a lot of amperage in that little cord. Okay, so that outlet that you have on the wall that you're plugging something into, if it has loose connections and you're running that much amperage through that outlet is going to catch on fire. So you need to make sure that you have a good tight connection on these, really anything you're using. You could be using a hair dryer, you could be using a toaster oven, whatever it is, microwave, anything that's going to draw a lot of amperage. And even if it's something small, you want to make sure that your outlets are in good shape. So if you're ignoring the fact that when you plug something into your outlet, it's kind of jiggly and loose, don't do that. Your house is going to catch on fire. Your outlet is going to catch on fire. It could cause it, because you're going to get arcs and sparks from that because of the loose connections. And then it's going to fall onto the ground and it's going to cause a fire. It's very important to change that stuff out. If you are not inclined to do it and you're worried about electrical, hire an electrician, get it done, but don't wait on stuff like that. But especially with these space heaters, it's very often you'll get these outlets and the outlet itself will overheat and will start to melt because of that, right? So on that note as well, make sure you're checking your smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors. Smoke detectors are really only meant to last about 10 years, the way they're designed, and they should be replaced every 10 years or so. They will still work. That doesn't mean that they work well. I know they can get kind of pricey when you're replacing all of the smoke detectors in your entire house, but you're talking about your safety here, right? So just, break down, buy them, put them up. I would definitely recommend the 10-year style with the built-in lithium batteries, because you don't have to worry about changing the 9 volts out of them all the time. And the reason why you want that backup is obviously if you lose power, that's a lot of times when people start to do, unsavory things like putting a heater inside their house to keep it warm. You want to make sure your smoke detectors are functional. So
Yeah.
I would definitely recommend making sure to check those things, and just be smart about how you're using your power. Be smart about how you're heating your home, and just be careful. When it gets cold, a lot of times, we do these crazy things to get things done. And then also right before it gets super cold, because it's already, it's 40 something right now in the Sacramento area. Get your heater maintenance done now while the heater technicians aren't super busy. I mean, once it gets into the 30s and it's this cold all the time, people are going to be running their heat all the time. You're never going to be able to get somebody to come out in a timely manner. So it probably should have been done a little bit sooner than now. But yeah, get your heater maintenance done right now before it gets super cold and super busy. Make sure your heater is going to work all winter.
And that is it, Chi-Chi fams. We will catch you guys next time. Thanks for watching. If you guys are watching the rerun, don't forget to like, share, and comment. If you guys have anything you guys want to ask, or any topics you guys want us to go over next time, be sure to leave that in the comment section. But for now, enjoy the rest of your week. We will see you guys next time. All right. Oh, yeah, it's Halloween next week, so be safe out there. Halloween, so be safe. All right, y'all. Peace out.